Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to Lost the Plot. Today, you join me on our first ever podcast with an external guest, and what better way to start than having a award-winning short film director in Laurence Roberts. Now, we're going to talk to Laurence in a moment and talk about his films, his projects. But I just want to say massive thank you to everyone that listens, that watches our videos, that watches our content, listens to our content, and this is a journey that we're excited to document and talk about, and that's the world of independent film and getting to know more about it and the people that are involved within it. So, without further ado, Laurence, how are we? You all right?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. This is the first time I've actually done something like this. Never really been on a sort of podcast before,
Yeah.
except some podcasts I used to do when I was like 15 or something. But now this is likewise is the first time I'm doing a podcast with somebody. So yeah,
Well,
this is the
we can hold each other's hands together as we go
yeah,
through
absolutely.
go through into the abyss, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah.
Right, so I've already mentioned you've won many awards actually for, is it The Amazing World of Emma?
Yes, I've won quite a few awards for the Amazing World of Emma actually. I've won some in I just need to think off the top of my head now. There's a few in Britain. There's also an award I won for a festival in Moscow that I don't know if I'm allowed to brag about now, but that was like in that was in like 2020.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's and more recently I did it at the Stratford upon Avon Festival. I got the award there, which is where I met you.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, yeah,
Mm,
we met at the Big Picture Festival, and
mm,
we were privileged enough with watching your films and actually
mm.
seeing you in a Q&A afterwards. I mean, did you have as much preparation for that as you did for this?
Absolutely none. No, to be
so,
honest.
should be a little bit more relaxed today then.
Yeah, it should be
From
a bit
the
more. Should be a bit more relaxed.
fantastic. Right. So I want to talk about film in general first.
Okay.
Because I feel like film is it's so diverse, it's so eclectic, and there's so many things that bring people together, whether it be agreements, disagreements, and because, like I say, you're part of the independent film world,
Mm.
especially in where making concerns. I just want to talk about what got you into it, what got you into the world of film, what sort of motivates you, and yeah, started your journey.
Well, I guess it depends where you want to start. Like, do you want to start with like my interest in like cinema in general and filmmaking?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go from there.
Well,
Cinema in general.
cinema in general.
Yes.
So I've always been like a big fan of cinema. Like my parents were massive like film buffs. My mum's favorite movie was like Some Like It Hot. My dad's was Downfall.
Yeah.
So you can see it's definitely a very diverse sort of range of films there.
Yeah.
I think one of my earliest memories of like watching a film is this is gonna sound so weird, but I think I was about 4 and we were driving to see The Grinch starring Jim Carrey. I like some
Fantastic.
I like some cinema out in the middle of nowhere. Um, but yeah, I've always been fascinated with like a film. Obviously, I used to like Toy Story when I was younger, a lot of kids' films. Then I just move on to more adult movies like maybe not that kind of adult, more kind of adult movies like and like stuff like Star Wars, like Lord of the Rings, and like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
More
Then
mature
you
films.
mature. There we
There we
go.
go.
No mature. Then again, mature has
No,
some
that's
dodgy
true.
connotations as well.
Negative connotations flying about everywhere.
Um, yeah, I think nothing especially interesting about my sort of interest in cinema. It's just like I saw a bunch of movies, I like them,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So what made you then want to sort of explore the world of writing yourself and sort of editing? Because that's where you've started, wasn't it? It wasn't directing, it was editing.
Sort of. I mean, I think editing was my first sort of quote unquote professional venture, but I did start off like sort of presumed directing, or more just like general filmmaking. I didn't really have any kind of I was a director, I was a writer, I was just kind of, I just had a camera.
Yeah.
I guess like if I'm talking about my filmmaking journey, it all kind of started when I was about 14 and my parents got me a this was a completely surprise Christmas gift, but it was a video camera that I just got. I think because before then, I was always very fascinated with like sort of filmmaking, or at least like recording video,
Yeah.
because obviously this is like 2009, and before then I had little to no like experience of like, filming stuff, or even like taking still photos, because this was like the time before. That reminds me, actually, I better put my phone on silent. I am so sorry.
No need to
Remembered.
apologize.
No, well, just split me, because I was about to say, because obviously this is before like phones, where obviously you've got like you've got a camera and a video camera just in your pocket. But this is like
Yeah.
before then, and to me it was just like a really fascinating thing to like film something. And then when I got my camera, I started like, just making a few like silly videos. I recorded some like gameplay of like Assassin's Creed on like Christmas Day and stuff like that. And then I started to join like some more film groups, and it was something I really had a passion doing. And then I eventually just decided, what if I what I want to do this for a living? And
Mm.
then I decided to go to college, then went to uni, which is where I made The Amazing World of Emma. And
Yes.
yeah, it's just kind of gone from there.
So you went to uni, you did, correct me if I'm wrong, so I've got it written down, digital media design.
Yes, well,
What?
digital media design. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
So before that I did a foundation degree in television and film, and I went
Oh,
on
okay.
to digital media design, which was the BA, which was, I guess, a more kind of general like sort of media sort of stuff. And yeah, sorry, you continue your question.
No, it's fine. Hey, talk away. I'm here to listen.
No,
We're here to listen to you, Lawrence.
I've kind of lost my thought. So please ask another question.
That's
Please save me.
so when you went to college, did you sort of choose subjects that were film based, like film studies or media studies or subjects like that, or was it completely just until uni that you sort of decided to explore it?
Well, it was actually the course I did at uni was film production. So yeah, I sort of decided that sort of beforehand. I did a BTEC course originally. This is when I was like 16 in I think it was just called media, or
Yeah,
I don't think it was like media design. This is like 10 plus years ago.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I did that. Then I moved on to a sort of TV and film course, because the way they called it, it was a level 2 BTEC course, and you had the option of the level 3 course was either iMedia, which is like a kind of generalized course, photography and film, and then film and TV. And I already decided to do like film and TV, because that was the reason I sort of went there anyway. So yeah, I basically just went to college just to specialize in film and TV.
No, I like it, and I mean, you've already mentioned the
Mm.
short film that we're going to talk about, The Amazing World of Emma.
Mm.
Um, but before we get onto it, your time at uni, I imagine you had loads of different assignments and projects that you had to complete.
Mm.
I've saw, if anyone wants to check out Lawrence's website, I'll put the link in the description. There's
Yeah.
various different clips and stuff on there, and stuff that you've produced that I thought was absolutely superb.
All of varying quality.
Yeah, all of very, hey, but it's all about the process, Lawrence, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's not going to be spot on straight away. What's your favorite sort of project to do?
Oh, that's a very good question. Could you just define that a little bit? Like, do you mean like sort of genre, or like
So what was the most enjoyable project that you had to complete? Was it sort of the documentary? Was it the still image? Was it the creating a horror film? Sort of which specific assignment sort of?
well, I guess like the sort of the Amazing World of Emma, that was the one I'm the most proud of, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that's the one I enjoyed the most, mostly because of stress.
yeah,
That's a good question, actually. I'm trying to think. Because a lot of it, I mean, a lot of it's just fun, but you kind of remember like a lot of the stress that it was to like
I
produce
get it.
something like that.
Yeah,
Um, oh, that is probably a good question. I would have to say the documentary, actually. That was probably the most fun I had
yeah,
sort of working with like everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, linking to the documentary, you sort of focused on this idea of social media
Oh yeah.
and being able to find information out about people on social media. But is that something that you wanted to explore early on in your filmmaking process, or was that something that you thought was interesting part way through?
I'm going to say part way through, because obviously the assignment we had to do was for a documentary,
Yeah,
and obviously I'm not so like when you go to like uni, like you kind of have to think, oh, what am I going to do for a documentary? And I guess I had been fascinated. I was fascinated with the idea of like you know how, just like if anybody on the internet could like find information about you. And I just got me like this kind of idea, because I thought, you know what, if I put a bunch of people in a room, and just like if I search all the information about them and tell them this is what I found out about you, blah blah blah. I thought that would have been quite interesting sort of to see.
Yeah.
It was definitely more of an, to be like quite cynical, was more of an excuse to like get the assignment kind of done at that point. But then I did like gradually grow into something I was really interested in.
Yeah. So that documentary then was the sort of foundation to some of the themes and the ideas that you look at in the stuff that you produce in more recent times.
Absolutely.
Lovely.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel like that transitions us nicely onto The Amazing World of Emma, which is the short film that you've won awards for. I mean, obviously, me seeing it numerous times now. I think about 5 times I've watched it, so I thoroughly enjoy it. That, and I like to be overcritical and analytical at films sometimes. It's probably a negative thing, but I appreciate, and I want to appreciate this world of independent film a little bit more. So when you're asked to create a horror film, I imagine quite a lot of people decided to think about, I don't know, slashers, gore, supernatural, and how they could incorporate those sort of things into that film. What made you choose real life?
Just because that's what I personally just find scarier. I've always been sort of fascinated. I guess like because I've been really like, I do like horror, and there's a lot of horror I absolutely like. I love films like The Thing. I love The Shining. But those films haven't personally kind of scared me. The only sort of the I guess a genre of film that really does scare me is you're familiar with found footage?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was really interested in stuff like the Blair Witch Project, and there's another YouTube series called Marble Hornets, which I'd highly recommend. I guess I may be contradicting myself because those are quite supernatural. But what I really like about them is just there's this kind of like element of reality in it, whereas someone's actually filming it, and you just get that kind of realism. That's something I generally find like really scary. And so those are the kind of elements I wanted to put more into Emma, just the idea of someone filming someone and they don't actually know that they're there.
Yeah.
And I guess just going back to your question a little bit, that was it was just I just thought it was scary to do something that could actually happen in real life, because it could happen in real life, which is what I think is scary about it.
No, I completely agree. And I think creating a film that resonates with the audience and people can relate to it a little bit more does create that element of fear, especially because I think with films like The Shining and these big sort of blockbuster horrors, they lose that reality, and they become sort of beyond any realm of believability, in the sense that it's its own universe that it's happening. It doesn't sort of scare the audience, so to speak. And I think that's what your film does really well, actually, is because it is realistic, because it resonates and can sort of be related to by the audience, it does create that fear factor. Why stalking?
I'm not sure if I have a particularly good answer for this. It was just something I thought was very scary. I particularly, I guess, from a more sort of filmic point of view, the thing I found like most scary about the aspect of Storm, this is kind of an idea I had that I sort of developed into Emma. Excuse me, was just imagine that, like, you're walking down the streets, just minding your own business, or you're at home, making a cup of tea or watching TV, and there's just someone filming you with a camera, and you have no idea why they're filming you, and you don't know who's filming you.
Yeah.
So just kind of imagine that. I think that idea just seemed like really scary to me. That you could be just like walking and you're just being watched by somebody, and you have absolutely no knowledge that it's happening.
So from how you're speaking and what you're talking about, it's you use sort of things that resonate with you, and you use things that sort of you're interested in throughout your filmmaking. Okay. So linking on to that point, so you've already talked about some other inspirations for the film. Were there certain shots or were there certain moments that you sort of saw in another production or another project and thought, I want to incorporate that into my film?
Oh, certainly. I mean, probably, as I've mentioned found footage before, like as well Blair Witch and Marble Hornets. But I think a big inspiration for this movie, probably even bigger, was it was a French film called Cachet, or Hidden. Not sure if you're familiar. It's by a director called Michael Haneke. never know if I'm pronouncing his second name right.
No,
But
Brian. I spoke to Brian, sorry, at the film festival, and he recommended that. And I'm going to be honest, I wrote it down somewhere and lost the
Oh,
title.
did you?
So I've not been able to watch it. So I wanted to watch it before talking to yourself, because I knew you mentioned that was an inspiration at the Q&A, and obviously you talk about it now. Sorry, Laurence, you crack on,
That's
mate.
okay. That's okay. I guess your note was hidden.
Yes, that's the yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So but yeah, I think so not to give too much away, that's a film that deals with a sort of similar subject matter. There's a bit about filming and stalking in there, which I won't go into detail. But the thing I liked about that film, and by extension a lot of Haneke's other film, is that they're very anti-cinematic in a way. Like there's no like massive spectacle. Like most of it is just like long, sort of like long one takes or oneers. I don't know what the correct like term is, but basically it's like a long take
Yeah.
for most scenes, but it's not done in a way where it's like really flashy or like obvious. It's just done in a way that's very matter of fact.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think that's what I wanted to do in the movie. It's sort of the subtlety of that movie that I think is probably the most terrifying about it. And that's kind of what I try to replicate, not just in Emma, but in a lot of movies. Like I do think subtlety really does bring like a lot of horror, and that's just something I like to do in my films.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in watching your other short film that you produced in, what's the name of it? I haven't written down. Scapegoat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of subtlety in there as well. You do a lot of show don't tell, I think, in your short film production, which I quite enjoy, in the sense that there's messages in which we as an audience can try and decipher from sort of how you're portraying from shots and from various different exposition that you're slowly drip feeding in there. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Excuse me. So what was the original idea for the film? Was it always about stalking? Was it always going to be about a girl that had her life posted on social media, or did it come from a different idea?
So I guess I was actually, when you I'm not sure if this is giving away the magic, but remember you sent me this sort of question yesterday, and I was kind of just imagining what's the word, incept, that doesn't sound right, where the idea sort of originated.
Yeah.
I've had this idea for a while, and it was purely going to be like an actual found footage movie.
Yeah.
It was just going to be like a collection of shots of just like some person in town. He's just like filming random things, and then he like starts filming like some woman that who's walking by, and then it cuts to like him filming this woman at her home. And it was it's sort of inspired a lot by, sort of found footage like Marble Hornets and Blair Witch, as I kind of said.
Yeah.
I think that's a very early idea I had for that. So I guess it was originally a found footage movie that I kind of developed a lot more into The Amazing World of Emma, because I guess I kind of had the idea of, if someone's putting something on the internet or someone's filming somebody, how would they react if they found that out? Like, to find out that, they've been filmed for like 2 years and they've had absolutely no idea, like, how would they react? And I guess I sort of went from there, and how it developed into The Amazing World of Emma.
Lovely. And for those that haven't seen it, I mean, I've talked about that film in a review of the Big Picture Festival, and I've tagged it down there. I'll tag it below in the description as well, because I think it's a fantastic short film, especially for a uni assignment. Because I feel like when something's got uni assignment next to it, sort of it's not seen in a as much as a positive light as it should be. I don't know. It's like when someone produces something, it's like, oh, it's very GCSE media studies. There's always sort of these negative connotations of, oh, it was an assignment, it's this. So I want people to see it, 'cause it's again superb, and I'll praise it, and I'll praise yourself. You do a brilliant job. Now, because you were at uni when you made it, yes?
Yes.
Now, I want to know more about the process of the sort of inception of the idea, and then the sort of making it, the filmmaking process, because like I say, this podcast is going to be a series of podcasts that sort of explore the world of independent filmmaking. So I want to know more about what goes into making a short film to this standard and this quality. I mean, could you start us off with, how do you storyboard the original idea? Do you meet with people and talk about it, or do you just go straight into filming it?
Well, I definitely don't go straight into filming it. In fact, I would say like going straight into filming it was definitely not the approach of Emma. There was so much sort of planning to do with like scheduling and like everything.
Yep.
I guess like if you want to go for like the inception or the idea, because obviously because you're talking, did you mention about collaboration, like talking with somebody?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess the because obviously I had like the idea like in my head for like quite a while, and
Yep.
I guess the main reason that I think the film is like as good as it is was because I collaborated with this couple called Mark Campbell Garrity and Fatos El Gasha. Mark was the producer and Fatos was the cinematographer slash DP and also the producer.
Yep.
And they were very. I got to know them like a few years ago, but then I showed them like Scapegoat, and they like liked it so much that they wanted to work on me in like another project. And that's when I told them about the Amazing World of Emma. And we kind of developed the idea. Like I had the basic idea, but then we sort of brainstormed ideas, sort of threw ideas sort of back and everything. And it's basically because of them that the film is at a good as high a standard as it is, really.
Got ya.
Because I was able, because they came into it because they've been making films and like stuff a lot longer than I have, so they were able to basically tell me because obviously I'd made films before, but definitely not on the scale of like Emma when they managed to get like a lot of like a crew together. And that's when I sort of learned about I guess I'm sort of going back and forth with the question of like what's the question, what is it going to take, or I guess the process of
Yeah.
that kind of
What
thing.
is the process of creating a short film
Oh
and
yeah,
making it?
so okay, so I guess like if we're going back to like getting, well, obviously we like I write a script, obviously. A big part of like filmmaking and is thinking practically and trying to figure out, what needs to be filmed on what day, what schedules are here. Because let's say I'm not sure, like I'm pretty sure your audience probably know a lot of this, but I'll just explain anyway.
Yep.
When you're writing like a script, it's always broken down into like scenes. So before a scene starts, you always see like at the top it says interior courthouse day, and that is a scene. And when you go to like a different room, that becomes a different scene. And normally a film might have, let's say, something like 15 scenes. It's sort of formatted like that, so you can break it down into like different parts of the day and different locations. Because depending on how many locations you have, that is absolutely going to like complicate things like a lot more.
Yep.
And that's when you kind of have to do the schedule. Like, let's say that you have like 3 scenes that are all shot at the one location. You need to kind of think, okay, we need to get a location for this, and we're going to shoot this all in one day. More complications. There's one actor who appears in all the scenes, but there's this other actress who appears in only one of the scenes there, and she's not available on certain days. So you think, okay, so she's not available on that day, so then we've got to like schedule like what days she's going to be available, and then like what day the actor's available, when the location's available. And I guess this all sounds kind of like boring when you're talking about scheduling and like organizing stuff, but that is absolutely key to like to when you're making a film, especially when you want like a sort of a small budget. When you want a
Yeah.
small budget,
Yeah.
because obviously you are relying on like, if you're, especially like, even if like you're not like paying people, you still have to think about, you still have to pay like expenses, you have to pay for like food and everything. I'm sort of rambling a little bit, but it's all about sort of organize when you sort of filming it. You've got to think of it like, okay, we need to film this that time, we've only got so many hours. And
Yeah.
then you have to kind of think, you have to get in a position where what you're going to film may not be exactly what you think in your head, because of due to all these like circumstances. And that's okay. You need to have that kind of flexibility, because if you do get too stubborn about like your what you sort of see on film, it's probably most likely not going to get done, because that is a big thing about filmmakers, all the problem solving and thinking, where is this going to get filmed and like everything. So that is a major part, and is by far the most stressful, because you're just juggling all these like different aspects when you're trying to like film something.
Would you say that's the biggest barrier to filmmaking? The scheduling, the organisation, the availability.
I think that's a bit. I wouldn't call that a barrier so much. I would say it's just something you just kind of need to like organize. I guess if we're talking barriers, like the big one by far is definitely budget. Like
Okay.
that is just the thing. Like getting budget is definitely a whole like different kind of ball game. And I'm not even, if I'm being perfectly honest, because since this was like self-funded by me, self-funded by me, you know what I really have no idea where to sort of get funding from. Like, for example, so I would say that is a much bigger barrier. When you're organizing something, I wouldn't necessarily call that a barrier. It's just
Okay.
something you have to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
But I would say like definitely budgeting is definitely a big barrier when it comes to like films.
Okay. So you say it's self-funded.
Yeah.
Literally, you've paid for camera, cast, so on, so forth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Did the university not offer any assistance with that, or did they just say, right, off you go, there's your assignment?
I mean, technically the money was for my student finance, if that's what sort of
Okay.
counts of that. Yeah, it was basically my sort of student loan that paid for the movie.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry,
Mhm.
that was quite I was prying then. My apologies.
It's okay. It's
I was
okay.
just curious. And you say you were rambling, it's all the boring stuff, but actually
Mm,
it's something as like
mm.
someone who's an avid film watcher who
Oh yeah.
appreciates films and love them, stuff that we never talk about. I went to watch The Flash the other day. I didn't
Mm,
sit with my mate and talk about, oh, I wonder about the scheduling. I wonder about this
yeah.
and sort of the barriers. We just sort of talked about it for what it is. So it's quite interesting to see the different perspectives of, obviously they get paid millions and millions to do it,
Oh
whereas
yeah.
yourself had to do it out of your own pocket. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see sort of the difference between how you approach it and how sort
Oh
of
yeah.
these big studios approach it as well. Um,
I
you
guess
talked
when you
about,
were, I guess sorry, I guess when you were watching
that's
The
right.
Flash, like you were more thinking about like if how much sense the plot doesn't make more than anything, probably.
Yeah, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's I've heard some things about it. Like,
It's
sorry, you
scatty.
carry on.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's scatty.
Mm,
And for hundreds of £1 million of budget,
yeah.
the CGI is a PS2 game,
Oh
which
yeah.
is unwatchable for about 30 minutes. But that's a different
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
in
yeah. We
itself.
won't talk about The Flash.
I mean, we can do if you want, but you've not seen it.
I've not seen
So you talked about problem solving. Was there any
it. Mhm.
scenes that you distinctly remember didn't go to plan and you had to sort of change it there and then and come up with a different idea?
Um, I don't think there wasn't anything too drastic on Emma, sort of luckily. We did I do remember the first ever scene we shot was sort of the alleyway scene where like where Harriet comforts Emma. We shot that first, but it was in a different location and it just didn't look good. Obviously no one's fault.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was just because it was our first scene and we were sort of getting used to it. We weren't really happy about it, so we decided to actually reshoot that scene in a different location. And obviously, that was the last scene we ever shot, like in the film. And yeah, I don't think there were too many sort of problems. I mean, there are obviously a lot of problems sort of solved when it came to like scheduling, but like as for stuff on the day,
Yeah.
there weren't too many hiccups, which I thought was pretty decent.
Okay. And since we're talking about shots and basically if there are any that have gone wrong, what's your favorite moment in the film or the favorite shot in the film? Because mine at the end, like my favorite shot is at the end where she sat there going about a day and she just turns to the camera and stares at it. It's sort of that realization and sort of acceptance of there's nothing that I can do about this. I'm
Mm,
helpless and there's people watching me. I love that. It's brilliant. And I think the sort of the natural sound that you use and the silence
mm,
from the actual character itself is excellent. So
mm.
do you have a favorite shot or moment in the film that you look back and think, yeah, that's spot on?
Well, ironically, that's actually my favorite shot that you were talking about.
Really?
Yeah, that's the bit I think I'm the most sort of proud of. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in the film I'm really proud of, but that sort of shot in particular, as you kind of said, is one that I kind of liked.
Uh,
Obviously, I also quite sorry, what were we saying?
no, you carry on. You carry on.
And obviously, yeah, just because obviously, I guess like that's one of the things I like to do with these films is that I like to have it not I don't like to sort of spell a lot of things out for the audience. I like to sort of let the scene sort of play out naturally, and I sort of leave things open to like interpretation, like the way you've just spoken about it now. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or if you're wrong,
I
but I
like it.
am yeah, that's one thing I try to do with my films a lot, and that's definitely the one shot that I'm definitely the most proud of.
It's similar to Scapegoat, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
The ending of Scapegoat was that sort of. Did you do that the first time in that film and think, right, I want to incorporate that into the amazing world of Emma?
If I did, it was probably subconsciously, because that
Yeah.
probably wasn't the I'm trying to remember what I did bring over from like Scapegoat. I didn't really, when I was thinking of like the last shot in like Emma, I didn't think too much of like repeating sort of shots from Scapegoat. It was more just an idea I sort of had sort of independently.
Yeah.
Um, if I did get inspiration, it was probably like subconsciously, but yeah, answer your question.
No, no, that's fine. I just thought I'd curious because I say, because I'd watched both of them in the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and I just wanted to, I'd sort of made that connection and thought potentially, because
Okay.
some directors at times have like signature shots that they want to include within films. Like
Oh yeah.
Sam Raimi loves an eye shot, doesn't he? The
Mm,
close up of the eye and the sort of the sequence panning out, and you've got Christopher
mm,
Nolan with the sort of the back to the camera and that over the shoulder
mm.
long shot of the character. So I didn't know if that sort of was like something that you're going to try and incorporate within other projects or.
You'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Well,
That's a good answer of that's I'm going to interpret that as I'm not entirely sure yet, but we'll see
yeah,
what
you can
comes out.
you can interpret that any way you like.
Hey, it fits in with you saying you leave things up for interpretation.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not wrong.
Mm,
Absolutely not wrong. So we talked about social media quite a lot. We've talked about sort of stalking. We've talked about
mm,
basically the inspiration of the film, because it is again a fantastic short film, hence why it's won
mm.
awards, especially in Moscow, which was completely left field. And I feel like we've not talked about that. Like, did you just submit it to a film competition in Moscow and they've gone excellent?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, when we finished the movie, we submitted to a lot of like festivals, and
Yeah,
we were also thinking of when I say we, I mean like me, Mark, and Vatosh were
yeah,
sort of thinking about festivals and wanted to go like abroad. We sent it to some places in Canada. I don't think we got accepted in a Canada place. Yeah, I mean, obviously we primarily sort of focused on like the UK, because obviously this is the place I'm going to be like working in.
yeah.
But we also submitted like internationally as well, and yeah, I think that was the first award we sort of ever got, was the one in Moscow. We won for best student film there, and we believe I think it got screened there. There was a funny thing though, because when it was accepted, it needed to be first approved by the Russian Ministry of Culture
Wow.
before it could actually like get screened. And I don't know if they approved it. Obviously, we still got, because we were given the award before like it was approved,
Yeah.
which hopefully they're okay after that. I don't know.
So
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.
I imagine they are. So
Yeah.
the process of that, is that literally just a case of you submit it to that festival in Moscow and then you just hear back from how it's done.
Yeah, pretty much,
Huh.
absolutely. There's the website we use is a website called filmfreeway.com, which is just specializes in you put your film on there, and there's just like a bunch of different festivals that like you submit like your stuff into.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of stuff like you do have to pay like big money for, but a lot of other festivals that are free, some are quite like inexpensive. So that's another thing you kind of have to do. If you want to put your film out to like festivals, you do need to have a budget for sort of festival budget on top of your budget for like making the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's also another sort of factor. So like the money just doesn't, like, you're still spending money even when after the film's finished.
Wow.
Mm,
That's amazing. So it's
mm,
and again, like I say, that's why I want to do podcasts like this and talk to
mm,
yourself, because it's so stuff like that you don't even realize, like the film festivals, for example. I
mm,
just assumed, like you could probably tell, that you submitted it and you heard back and you were invited if it did well. But the
oh
fact
yeah.
you have to pay and spend money, and I suppose
Mm,
on travel as well, because obviously you're
oh
from
yeah,
Nottingham and going to
absolutely.
Stratford,
Mm.
you've had to pay to go there and then do the Q&A as well. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like a never ending cycle.
Exactly. And it's like things you don't even like think about. Like as I sort of mentioned before, like it's not just when you're sort of filming on set, you can't just like show up with like sort of no preparation. You have to think, it's not just a case of, you bring a camera, you think of all the creative stuff. You have to think practically as well. Because as I
Yeah,
mentioned, you have to think, if you've got like, 20 people on set, you have to practically think, how are we going to feed 20 people? And you're going
yeah,
to be filming for like 20, not 20 hours. Well, it depends on the film. Sometimes you might, but on average, you normally film for about 10 hours a day. So you
yeah,
have to kind of think, right, how are we going to feed everybody? Is there a toilet sort of nearby? Because one thing I did hear actually, it's actually illegal to film on a set when there's no access to a toilet. So
Really?
that's something which it kind of makes a lot of sense. So that's
Yeah.
something you do need to like absolutely sort out. And yeah.
Wow. So say like if a cast member or someone so there's not a toilet on set and they'd report that, you'd get what, fined for it or?
I assume so, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess obviously we're talking the legal the process.
Yeah.
I've absolutely sort of no idea,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I imagine yeah, it is actually you do need access to a toilet for like a variety of reasons.
Wow, that's incredible.
Hmm.
That generally I'm astonished with that. But mind
Hmm.
you, like it makes sense, but it's something that
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. But you just don't really sort of think about that.
no, that's what I'm gonna say. It's
Hmm.
like I'm never watching Beau's Afraid. I'm not gonna sit there and go, oh, I wonder if they had a toilet on set that they could
Yeah,
access. Like it's just
absolutely.
never gonna be the case. Um Before we sort of talk about other things and stuff, just last question about sort of you and filmmaking. So, what have you got in the pipeline? Are there any other projects that you're looking to get out there, or have you got things that you're working on now, or what?
This is the question I always sort of get. I've got a few sort of script ideas that I'm kind of working on. I'm not going to say anything about it yet.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm trying to like get into sort of like novel like prose writing
Okay.
because I'm sort of looking to like delve into like into that a little bit. Just because I really like to like I think the most thing I'm most passionate about is definitely storytelling and
Yes.
writing. And obviously the good thing about it when you write a novel is that you obviously it is quite stressful, but you don't need to worry about organizations, or you definitely don't need to worry about getting a toilet for like 20 people when you're like writing a when you're writing a novel.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, that's what I'm sort of getting into. I've got a bit of an idea for a novel. I won't say what it's about yet, but yeah, just
What
things are
what
happening.
what genre intrigues you then in writing?
I don't really think in terms of like genre.
Okay.
I just tend to think more unless maybe horror. Horror's
Okay.
quite like interesting to kind of do. But like when I think about an idea, I'm not necessarily thinking, this is an I want to make an action movie. I normally have like an idea that's normally inspired by, I don't know, either something I watch, something I read, and then I think of like, this idea sounds interesting. I'll develop it. Normally, if it fits into a genre, it sort of fits into a genre. So I guess
So
like just to go over and sort of answer your question a little bit, I guess the type of films I like are definitely films that I quite like psychological stuff. That's tend to be like a theme. I think that's definitely a theme throughout my through what I've done, like
so
psychological stuff.
So in your films, you don't try and use specific conventions of other genres and incorporate them. You just sort of develop this idea and then tell the story. And if it falls and it or includes conventions from a genre, it just includes them. It's of no intention.
Probably like that's kind of a difficult one. I guess I'd probably include like conventions like subconsciously because
Yeah,
every single like everything you do has like conventions in it.
yeah, of
I
course.
guess because I'm not. I guess like because there's a lot of like different structures you can like do to like make films or any kind of media like I think it's called like the hero's journey, which is quite a common one that people sort of bring up when it's like you have a protagonist. I actually don't know sort of the hero's journey, but it's kind of like an 8-step sort of like circle about like a story. I tend not to like use that so much. I try to um I'm sort of trying to think. I guess yeah, I don't really think too much sort of in terms of structure too much. I normally like I don't try to follow like a sort of set path. And
Yeah,
normally if it does, it kind of like I guess it sort of falls in to that. I tend to because they always say like your most important shot is like the first shot of the movie.
yeah.
And it's also sort of determining like when's the best place to kind of start, like what's really going to grip sort of your audience. So I guess I always take sort of that advice in mind, but to be honest, most of the time I just sort of wing it. Like I just kind of think I have kind of an idea and I think, okay, how can this develop a bit more? What's going to happen? Blah blah blah. I've got no kind of code or sort of structure. Like I just think, okay, here's an idea. Let's sort of work on it. Sometimes it kind of works. Sometimes it doesn't. But I wing it most of the time.
I'm going to be honest, sometimes I think that gets the best
Mm.
results, where you go with a gut feeling, you
Oh
go
yeah.
with an interest and go, right, let's see what comes out of this. And then
Mm.
obviously it allows you to develop that idea further, especially in film writing and directing.
Mm.
So if there's a scene that you've shot that you're off the cuff or
Mm.
sort of with your gut, you can go, right, instead of doing this next, we can sort of develop on this part. Did you do
Mm.
that in The Amazing World of Emma? Did you shoot something and then think, right, actually, I want to add this bit instead because I think this is a good idea, or was it structured from the offset?
It was structured from the offset.
Got it.
Yeah, when we didn't really when we started filming, this was in like the fourth draft of the script, and we didn't really. Obviously, we had sort of ideas for like shots that I wanted to implement, but in terms of like actual story structure, it was definitely all planned out from the beginning, at least the story.
Oh, okay,
So yeah.
interesting.
Mm.
No, brilliant.
Mm.
Now, so we've talked about film, we've talked
Mm.
about filmmaking, and I will finish the podcast on one question that I will ask all of my guests,
Okay.
just to sort of close it on a film related question. Um, I did a little bit of snooping. I
Okay.
mentioned to you, didn't I? And I had a little look,
Yeah.
through social medias and websites and so on. And I saw you did you had a little dabble in Twitch streaming and video games in particular.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I've not really done that in a while
Oh
actually.
yeah, don't
I
get me wrong.
don't.
This was, I think it was about a year and a half ago. But
Oh yeah.
I was just sort of interested into sort of what games take your fancy. What's sort of the best game you've played? What sort of do you enjoy
Do you mean like sort of on stream or sort of in general?
in general? Forget on stream.
So I definitely like I mean that's kind of another thing when it comes to genre as well. I like all sorts of games.
Yeah,
One of my favorite sort of genres that I'm really gone into recently is called immersive sim.
yeah,
If you're not familiar with that, it's basically it's a game where like it's kind of designed where like there's a lot of freedom of choice. I mean, games
yes,
are like always. I mean, freedom of choice is obviously something in video games, and this is something where it's taken to like the next level.
yeah,
Whereas where you can choose like several different paths, like where you can go. You can do it like you can find it like several different ways. One of the most popular ones are like things like Deus Ex. And one of the ones I actually played on Steam was called System Shock 2, which is also survival horror.
yeah.
Those are the games I've really gone into like recently. I do love survival horror. Like I just like recently, obviously, Resident Evil 4 came out this year,
Yes,
so
it did.
which I literally got a new bought a new graphics card to play it. So
Wow.
that's why I really like Resident Evil 4, which is a really good game. Recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, something, those types of games are something that I don't play. I'm going to be honest. I'm
Okay,
sort of basic COD, FIFA,
oh,
Spider-Man
fair.
games. Absolutely love. Last of Us, to
Perfect.
be fair, I did.
Mm.
I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
I still
Assassin's
need to
Creed,
play that. I've heard like good things about it.
it's good. I've played
Yeah.
the first one. I don't want to play the second one because obviously the series is out
Mm.
in the next couple of years, and
Oh yeah.
I wanna be surprised
Mm.
by what happens. Excellent. I was just prying into sort of your gaming experience.
Oh yeah.
Now I've loved talking to you, Lawrence. It's been fantastic to find out about your film, your thought processes, sort of the what goes into creating an independent film, and a little bit
Mm.
about yourself. Now I'm going to finish it off again. There's one question that I will ask at the end,
Okay.
but I'm going to ask a series of choice questions. So it'll be one thing or another, just a little bit of a quick fire, just to sort of see what your interests are to finish the video off on. Yeah, they are either film related. Most of them are film related. Let me just check.
Okay.
Or there's one or two that are not film related.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
That's fair enough.
So again, quick fire. First thing that comes into your head: swing or slide.
Swing, definitely.
Good choice. Popcorn or sweets.
um, Popcorn.
Sweet or salted.
Salted.
Marvel or DC.
Uh, d- um, Marvel overall, but for my favorite superhero is Batman. So take that as you will.
Love it. Yeah, he's up there for me as well. I'm going to
Oh
be
yeah.
honest. Cinema or at home.
Oh, definitely cinema.
Really?
Yeah, just I
Why?
look. I do like.
Sorry, I'm going to pry now. Why cinema?
Oh, it's just like that's just is the quintessential sort of film experience. Like you go into the
Yeah.
cinema, and it's also the kind of the atmosphere you get around you. Obviously, not all experiences are like great in the cinema. Like
Yeah.
sometimes There was one because I was watching this. I'm going on a little rant now. There was
No,
actually
go for it.
there was
Go for
one
it.
time like I was watching the new Dune movie. Came out in 2000 and, like, what, not 2001, 2021, and we were in the cinema, and we were in IMAX, and the guy next to me just started talking on the phone, like
Wow.
not even texting, like having a full on conversation while we're watching Dune. That's not a great experience.
I'd have
Yeah.
lost it completely. I mean, I'm a massive believer that there
Mm.
should be other screenings where sort of phones are put in a lockbox beforehand,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's no food taken in. It's just sort of like people, or even headphones. You go in, you put headphones on, so you're in your own little world, like you're immersed in the film. Just little stuff like that
Oh
because
yeah.
if that would happen to me, like, I'm going to be honest, I'd walk out, I'd lose my mind because I've paid so much money to watch such a brilliant
Yeah.
film,
Yeah.
and you're like,
There was
oh
an
my
IMAX
god.
screening as well. An
I know,
IMAX.
and that's
Mm.
that's irritating. I get it though. I'm with you. Cinema, yeah, lovely.
Okay.
Netflix or Disney Plus?
Probably Netflix. Although
Okay.
Disney Plus has The Simpsons, so I don't know.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Scapegoat or The Amazing World of Emma?
Definitely The Amazing World of Emma.
Close up or over the shoulder?
Depends on the context of the scene.
Like it.
Mm.
And then that's it. That was it. Sorry, it was the last question I was going to ask you. So brilliant. Thank you for that. I much appreciate you coming on and talking to me and sharing your experiences. I hope people have enjoyed sort of knowing and understanding what it goes and what it takes going into an independent film, especially one of this sort of caliber. Because, like I say, the production of it is excellent. It
thank
does
you very much.
look excellent, and the message, the story that's told, I think it's thoroughly enjoyable. The last question that I'm going to ask is, if you could watch one film this moment, what would it be? So not your favorite, one film this moment.
Probably Lord of the Rings.
Which one?
Well, I'd watch the Fellowship first, then I'd gradually move on to like 2000. It's
So-
one of those films that I think the interesting thing about Lord of the Rings is that whenever you say like I like Lord of the Rings, you're always talking about it like collectively as like one movie.
Absolutely.
Whereas, which you don't really do with like any other sort of trilogy. Like when you're watching Star Wars, you don't think I'm going to watch Star Wars. You either think I'm going to watch Empire, I'm going to watch the first one. Lord of the Rings, it's always those three. It's always the trilogy collectively.
I completely agree. I think that goes into how it's shot as well, isn't it? And
yeah, exactly.
Sort of the process of they did film all three films back to back to back.
Yeah.
Which sort of created that more continuous world that we see as, instead of three films, like you said, you refer to it as the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I love that. Great answer. Very good answer. Again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and I hope those that have watched and listened to us have enjoyed that. And the link to Laurence's website will be down below. The link to the film, The Amazing World of Emma, will be down below as well. Watch it. It's brilliant. It's only 11 minutes of your time. Thoroughly enjoyable. But that's all from me, and I shall see you in the next one.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I've had an absolute pleasure.